My name is Marisa Palermo, and I grew up in a town in Idaho known as Hagerman that has a population of less than 1,000 people. I graduated in 2014 with a graduating class of 26 kids. In my high school, grades 7 through 12, there was about 170 students total. We utilized a 4-day school week for part of that time. There are 17 states, 120 school districts within these 17 states across the nation that utilize the 4-day school week, as well as Hagerman utilizing it, other schools in the area, Wendell, Castleford, and many others, as well as schools in eastern Idaho, Marsh Valley, and those in the north are utilizing this 4-day school week. The 4-day school week was first seen in South Dakota in 1936, and it became more widely popular starting in 1973 as schools were trying to reduce costs and save energy. The first school to receive major recognition across the nation was in Maine, and that came about in the early 1970s. In the first 5 months, the school district saved over $13,000 by reducing this. By deducting a day off the school week, the district creates lower overhead and operating costs. Bus companies only have to bus kids for 4 days instead of 5. Hourly employees aren't paid on Fridays. And also facility, energy, and utility costs are reduced due to the school being closed 1 day a week, as well as Saturday and Sunday. This also creates less wear and tear on buildings, equipment, and buses, thus creating less costs and things having to be replaced more often. A 4-day school week is actually a surprising factor in student achievement. The overall student test scores are actually increased for standardized tests. There was a study done in Idaho in 2009 that shows that students' test scores actually exceed the state average. And this is just done in Idaho. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's happening everywhere. There's also an increase in overall attendance. During football season, games are on Fridays, and being from a small school, a lot of other schools are far away and require up to 6 hours of travel one way. This requires students to miss school on Fridays. We have to leave pretty early. And so with games being taken in the evenings, it gives students a chance to not miss school on Fridays and fall behind. Giving students 3-day weekends, there's more time allowed for family vacations if people want to go visit grandparents in other towns or want to do stuff. On the weekends, they have Friday also instead of just Saturday and Sunday, and people feel more inclined that they have to be in school 4 days instead of 5. There's actually an increase in efficiency in classrooms due to fewer interruptions and distractions. Typically, classes run shorter instead of being a standard hour, 45 minutes to 50 minutes, and there are fewer interruptions. And also creates a more consistent schedule for students. Students don't have to deal with half days and in-service days because teachers have Friday to prep for these. As well as benefits to switching to a 4-day school week. There are also some challenges and downfalls. Parents with younger children have to find childcare. If kids aren't old enough to stay home, they either have to find someone to babysit them or enroll them in daycare of some sort. This can be a burden just because parents are finding this extra cost inefficient and frustrating. And also daycares in the area can fill up fast due to having to cater to all the parents. But also parents have to remember that it's something that they are responsible for because they are parents and they can't just leave their kids alone. And according to the study in 2009, a longer school days can be tougher on younger children. They don't quite have the attention span, and if they're not getting enough sleep at night, they have a harder time paying attention at the end of the day, and they can actually do worse in school versus better. A longer school day can also create less free time during the school week. Sports practices, if a child chooses to enter extracurricular activities, start later because school goes a tiny bit longer and also end later. There's less time in the evening for homework, sleep, family time, etc. or whatever it may be a student does after school. Um, just because school does run a little later, and if you are a student athlete, it runs you have even less time. So is a 4-day school really worth it? A 4-day school week typically benefits small and rural school areas rather than bigger urban ones. So if it is a small school looking for ways to save money, it is highly suggested that they do switch to a 4-day school week. However, if it's in an urbanized area, switching to a 4-day school week is not the best option.